Hello once more to the fantastic state of Michigan,
Get
where
out of the way, Michigan hippies.
currently hanging our hats. And this is the second of a projected episode five double bills out of Michigan. And this is kind of a 1.5 more than a double bill, right? Because we have a film and then we have a documentary about making of said
More
film.
like a negative 1.5. Oh,
Uh, yeah.
uh,
Yeah. So I'm here to do
round
the
negative.
serious scholarly stuff. And as you can tell, Ron is here for the hilarious comedy relief.
It's what I do.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone says, boy, that Ron, he's hilarious comic relief, they say.
I got a gap to fill.
He's the Rob Schneider of our generation.
You can do it.
Sick burn there. Right. So, first off, The Demon Lover, 1976, aka Demon Master, Coven, Master of Evil. This is a film with two directors, one of who is Donald G. Jackson, who, do you remember which other film of his we watched and you actually quite enjoyed, Ron, on the Magic Morning Wood show that we do?
No.
He went on to make Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Oh, okay. Remind me what happened in that one.
That's the Roddy Piper
Oh, okay. Right.
frog. I mean, how could you not remember from the title? Hell Comes to Frogtown, right?
Yeah, I don't know. So they're all starting to run into each other for me.
But
So
you did enjoy that, I remember.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so he went on to do that, and actually a fairly prolific, low-budget filmmaker. He also made a documentary after this about the wrestler, the Sheik,
Oh
called
yeah.
I
Iron
Like
Sheik.
to Hurt People.
The Iron Sheik.
I know. I just said the Sheik. So there's other people. They're like Abdullah the Butcher's in it, and apparently if you're into like vintage wrestling, it's from '85. It's apparently it's quite a fun time capsule. I might take a look at that actually. It looks kind of. I think that's the thing he made after this. That was the next film he got off the ground. And then, yeah, he did Hell Comes to Frogtown and sequels and the Roller Gator films, and seems to have done a lot of movies with Joe Estevez, right? Martin Sheen's brother. Always the sign of quality in the film.
But Joyce, okay,
Yeah.
Charlie and Emilio's uncle.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And Jerry Youngkins, who also stars in this film under the name Christmas Robbins. Interesting pseudonym. And he plays another good name, Larval Blessing, right? Who is he's like a leader of this kind of coven, I guess. Or they're basically just kind of hippies who hang about and fuck about with, the occult, right? And they probably have a couple of books about Aleister Crowley and this kind of group of people, this type of group of people seem to have hung about for a long time since the 70s, right? They were still knocking about in the 90s. You'd bump into kind of people like this.
Right.
Anyway, and he's got this group, and he summons like a skull-faced, goat-horned demon monster that turns up every now and again and kills people who wrong him, I guess.
He like left the coven or something, didn't he? Isn't that what he agreed to leave in the coven, right?
Because he tried to get, girls to take their clothes off and stuff, and
And they said no, except for one.
Yes. And that's kind of what it did, really. And he also uses his psychic energy, I guess, to sometimes like he manages to get some girl to run over like another girl and stuff like that. So it's just a series of murders, and then a cop, what's his name? It's a Frazetta, right? It's a kind of reference to the famous Frank Frazetta, the guy who did the Conan illustrations. There's all these characters have those annoying referential, like Gunnar Hansen of Texas Chainsaw Massacre fame
Mm.
is in it as Professor Peckinpah, right? So they it was apparently an expert in the occult that the quite bad actor playing the detective interrogates. To be honest,
Mm.
Gunnar Hansen's probably the best actor in the entire film. Right? Like when he's on screen briefly, he's at least delivering his lines like with a modicum of kind of professionalism, or
Mm.
and then everyone else is pretty bad.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
we kind of get to see why when we see the documentary as well. Yeah, no, I think that's about it plot wise. And Val Myrick plays one of the characters. He was the guy who drew Howard the Duck first, right? He's
Right.
Howard the Duck. Um, maybe also did the poster for this film, and a bloke who looks very much like Frank Zappa. Um,
Yeah.
like
I couldn't tell. Was he supposed to be Frank Zappa,
I don't
or
think
did,
no.
or did it just happen to be that he looked like him?
I
Because he
think
looked exactly like him.
I think a lot of dudes looked like Frank Zappa in 1976,
Okay.
and now it's just Mark Maron, right? Uh,
Right.
uh, yep, that's about it. You hinted in our Christmas show, Ron, that you might not be too fond of the Demon Lover, but take it away. What did you make of this film then?
But yeah, I wasn't too fond of it. It was,
Okay, there we go.
yeah, that's what
Hot
it,
take.
yeah, everyone was really bad. It was boring. There was no,
It was
like,
boring. I didn't find it boring, I have to say. I mean, it's
yeah,
kind of amateurish. There's no doubt about that. But
yeah,
it's regional, low budget filmmaking. It's got some. The monster's not bad, and some of the kills are quite kind of grisly looking, and it's got that look like they go to a bar at one point, and it's a proper bar, and there's people just drinking, and it's nice to hang out, and oh, look at this like lovely kind of 70s, that kind of thing. It's got atmosphere. It's a time capsule, right? It's all right.
but Terrifier made you angry.
Oh, this is 100 times more entertaining than Terrifying.
Unbelievable. I never understand it. Yeah, yeah,
I
is that
don't understand you. I
shit?
I don't get it. I don't get this is so it has it's crap, but it's charming crap. Terrifier
No,
has
it was not
no charm.
charming. It was just garbage. It was just boring. No one knew what they were doing. It was amateurish to the point where it was just like it was just work to watch it. It was plotting. It was poorly paced, poorly shot. There was I couldn't find really anything in this movie that was interesting or useful, to be honest. Yeah, I especially noteworthy, I think, was the 10-minute karate scene,
Yeah, that
where
was pretty good.
they just suddenly filmed a karate class. I don't really don't know what that was all about.
I
Yeah,
thought that might come back. I thought they might use some karate on the
yeah,
monster. I had seen this film before, but I didn't remember much about it, to be honest with you, because it's not. Even though I obviously enjoyed it more than you did, it's not a memorable film. Like there's nothing stands out like, oh,
yeah.
that's
I'm actually even like I watched it this week, and I'm still like I'm trying to wait. Okay, well, what happened in this one? Like, is it's yeah, it's so like I almost forgot it almost as soon as it was finished, right? So
the
yeah, it
only
was like yeah.
only thing I remembered from it crystal clear was the kid who says, "It's a dead body, Pete, just like on TV." Like I remembered that line because I know I'd sampled it for a piece of music I made. But while I was
Right.
watching this back, I was quite surprised. There were a few other bits, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like I remember this scene live. So I must have gone through the entire film and sampled certain scenes,
Oh,
but I only ended up using that "It's a Dead
that
Body"
one. Hmm.
because
Okay.
it's quite a fun sample. But
Yeah.
yes, but I don't remember having scrolled through the entire VHS back in the day because I remember renting this after I arrived in Japan. This was one I was like um quite difficult to find, and but like a lot of things was on the shelf at
Hmm.
Tsutaya Shinjuku, and I was like, oh, because I'd read about it and I was excited
Hmm.
to. So I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't really. It was just sort of forgettable and the same, bunch of people. I mean, again, good on them for, putting it together and doing their movie. The only thing that made it more interesting was the thought of the documentary.
Hmm.
Sort of I thought like, oh well, because you don't get a lot of these kind of low budget movies with a documentary about like how they made it
Right.
and stuff like that. So I set up a little bit more to, a little more interested in finding out what they're going to actually cover in the documentary. But I mean, that's a story for the next part.
Yeah. I mean,
But
they
yeah,
definitely make for a set, right? Like, I think if you're going to like, because Demon Lover Diary has a slight cult cachet now, and I'm thinking, well, you should probably watch Demon Lover first, so you get the full kind of
right. Yeah,
impact.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
see what they're talking about and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was just padded with stuff. There was like, the rubber demon, would pop out once in a while. And the I one thing I thought I read one review that kind of put it was that the main guy, what was his name? The Laval. Uh,
Laval Blessing is the
yeah,
character.
wrestling. Wasn't I mean his real name was Christmas?
Now, his real name is Jerry Youngkins, and he's
Jerry, right? Yeah.
writer, director, producer. But
So why did he go by Christmas Robbins?
I don't know, that's his acting pseudonym for this film, was Christmas
Okay.
Robin.
Yeah, anyway, so anyway, he looked a lot like James Hetfield from lead singer of Metallica
Oh,
from
he
the
does,
early
yeah.
yeah, so I thought yeah. So I was like, oh yeah, it kind of looks like yeah, except
I
for
mean, yeah,
like
with Frank
with
Zappa.
like an extra 50 pounds on him, I guess, right? So, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I don't yeah, it was what it was. Yeah, I watched it. I really don't have much to say about it, to be honest. It was ultimately forgettable and nothing really stood out for me with this one.
yeah, no, I agree with you. It's not like like one of these films that you have to. It's not like a Rock and Roll Nightmare or something like that. But I thought it was relatively painless as a interesting little regional, which is what this trip is all about, right? So it's representational of that for Michigan, which is
Right.
what it's here.
Sure.
Um, oh yeah, there was one other bit that actually made me laugh. I thought it was quite funny. Was there's a bit where the cop's in the bedroom and he's found out about some new murder or something, or he's got a lead or something, and he starts talking to him, like, we're gonna get that son of a bitch or something like that. And his tired wife in bed just goes, "Oh, do you cops always have to talk like that?" I thought that was kind of quite funny. And he's immediately deflated, like, oh, I thought that was actually
Okay.
a genuinely quite a good kind of
Uh,
gag.
yeah.
I thought it was quite funny. But yeah, there's not too much of that kind of thing in it. But yes, so Demon Lover Diary. So the story behind this is, so the guy who shot Demon Lover is a guy called Jeff Cranes. Cranes, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, right? And he's got,
Crinus. I think it's Crinus. They
is it
said it in the
Cranes?
movie.
Oh,
I think
okay.
they said it in the movie.
Okay, so Jeff Cranes has been hired to go to Michigan to shoot this film for Don Jackson, Jerry Youngkins. And his partner, who is the documentarian here, who does also provides a voiceover, Joel DeMott. I didn't know Joel was a unisex name.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know either.
I
Yeah.
think that,
Actually, I was because the whole time I'm watching this, I was like Joel DeMott. Who the fuck is Joel DeMott? And I was looking at the Demon Lover kind of cast, and I was like, well, who the fuck is Joel DeMott? Joel DeMott is not credited on Demon Lover, so it's not an actual. And I was like, it did have a female, and it actually just right now I finally put together that Joel must have been the
yes,
girl. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't
No,
even know that.
I was a
Yeah,
bit
I was like,
confused.
I couldn't figure out who the fuck Joel was, right? Because it said it
Yeah,
was filmed by Joel, but I couldn't figure out who she was, right? Okay.
I've never heard of Joel as a girl's name before.
No, me neither.
Um,
Yeah. So
so
I've
that
heard Joel, like ELLE, but not
yes.
JOEL, but yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that's
Yeah.
the case, and they head off to Michigan, and I mean, it's funny. So it's people often compare this to that film American Movie, right? Which is not entirely fair, because American Movie is kind of somewhat fabricated, right? It's not a straight up doc. As far as I can tell, I mean, there's been a few people over the years who have maybe questioned maybe if some of it is staged, but it feels pretty real to me. Like, this does just feel like people documenting a bit of a, well, chaos, really, isn't it? Like,
Hmm.
so they go for a start, they're late, right? They're like a week late or something.
Right.
And Cranus seems like on the verge of just getting sacked, right? But it seems like they really want him for the film. Which I can't. It's funny because there's scenes of Donald Jackson when he's talking to a journalist, and he's talking about, I fucking love this guy. Like this work is amazing or something, and it seems like he's seen something he's made at a film festival or something, right?
Yeah.
But I was trying to figure out what it was. I couldn't. There's no like credits prior to this. The only thing, and this is kind of interesting, and I don't know if this is true. I don't know if this is what it was he saw. But if you remember, like a year or two ago, they unearthed like an early lost George A. Romero film, right? Called The Amusement Park. He directed it in 1975, and people didn't know anything about it until it suddenly popped up remastered like a year or two ago, right? And I noticed for the restoration, the 4K restoration, Jeff Cranus gets a sort of credit, but he's not the credited cinematographer of the original film. So I don't know if he's just a 4K expert now or something, and he just happened to work on it. But he was a consultant, so I get the feeling that maybe he knew what it was supposed to look like. So maybe he did shoot that film, and maybe that's the film that Don Jackson saw. I don't know, but for some reason he's like adamant, right? And he keeps like offering him lots of money, which I don't think they'll ever see, right?
Yeah, I never believed him for once that he was like, I'll give you $1,000. And he's like, oh, $1,000. I was like, there's no way these people have $1,000 to pay this guy. But I think it was more like oh, this, they kept saying, oh, this movie's gonna be a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece.
Yes.
I think he just had this image that it was just gonna do really, really well, and he'll have all this money rolling in that he'd be able to pay him with, right? So,
yeah, no, he's a massive bullshitter. Like he goes on this huge rant. He's going on. You go to movies nowadays, and it's just all talk, but this movie's gonna be like a roller coaster. And like if you've seen the,
yeah, and I was like, is this the movie that I just watched? Because I was like, yeah.
So there's that, and then it turns out they're just really badly, and they're not even prepared for anything, right? Like they just rock up at people's houses, who are kind enough to let them film and stay, and quite quickly unwelcome, right? Because they're loud and make a mess, and which is what film crews do, to be fair. But and like just people who can't act, and like just girlfriends and things like that enroll, and they just there's not much professionalism going on.
No. There's like a whole section about like in like a grade 8 crush, basically, where like this guy's like, oh, I have a crush on you, and then they have this kind of like, and this guy's is like a playboy talking about, oh, I got like 3 girlfriends and on top of my wife, and then they're like kissing and stuff, and oh, I kind of like you, and I was like, who fucking gives a shit about that? So annoying. Oh,
particularly because they're like, they're googly eyes at each other, and in the middle of filming, they fuck off, make out in a room, and they're all goofing, or you made out with it. And you're thinking, how old are these people?
Yeah, it was like fucking, it was like a junior high school or something. It was like, or
no, it's it was. I would imagine being on this set would have been amazingly irritating. And lucky for us, this is the next best thing, right? We have a front row seat to see this thing in action. Yes. They go to Ted Nugent's house. That was a bit of a surprise. Turned up at Ted Nugent's house.
Was Ted Nugent in the movie?
I think he's kind of there. I think I'm not quite sure what Ted Nugent would have looked like in 1970. I'm not sure.
I don't even know what Ted Nugent looks like now, but like, was he in the actual film?
I don't know, because apparently they have to wait for him to turn up, right? And then he turns up, and then he gives them some guns and some ammo. I think he is there. I think he's like
he's in this movie, but is he in the actual Demon Lovers?
No.
Okay. Well, why were they shooting at his house then?
I don't know. I'm guessing they were looking around for locations in Jackson, Michigan, or wherever, and Ted Nugent, sure, you can shoot in my house, and maybe he thought he'd get a kick out of a film crew being there or something.
Yeah.
and then some guns are handed out,
Yeah.
and like eventually Cranus and Dimot just kind of fuck it, we've had enough, and they leave at
Uh,
the end of the film, and then you can hear like gunshots, and she's
yeah.
like, they're shooting,
Yeah.
and then there's a little coda when they're just hanging out, and they talk to a trucker, and a truck stopped for a while, and clearly they're all like, we're not going back there, um,
No.
and they. I would imagine they were probably surprised that the film was actually completed and released, right?
No.
Because it looks like it's
I'm
going
surprised
nowhere.
based on this that the film actually got made.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it didn't look like they did anything.
no,
Certainly the documentary is not about the actual movie at all. It's yeah.
no. But the thing is, as well, it's not total. It's not a total one side. Like, I, yeah, I'm generally sympathetic towards Cranus and Demott, right? But also, they're kind of whiny and annoying, and
Yeah.
as well, right? And just
Yeah, like he gets like so upset when they come down with the scene with the whipped cream, I guess, right?
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
there's a scene in the movie randomly where the girls come down and start having a whipped cream fight. And then I guess and it shows like
carried
the
away.
aftermath of the scene where
Yeah.
he's so pissed off because he got whipped cream on his lens and shit like
Yeah,
that, right?
he's
So
to overreact just
yeah,
a
yeah, a
little
little
bit,
bit.
I think.
Yeah, he's a bit of a diva.
And also a bit of a backseat director as well, right? Like, yeah,
Yeah,
okay, I understand you think this is, but you're not the director, right?
yeah,
He doesn't seem to get that. I mean, he's mostly right. It's a mess, but the thing is, that's
yeah,
not the point, right?
yeah.
He's not there in that capacity. So yeah, so the whole thing is just a very unsympathetic portrait, but I think probably captures. I suspect a lot of low budget films that we never heard about because they never did get completed are probably like this, right? I don't think this is an outlier. So
No,
therefore, I think it's kind of a bit like you said. Not only do low budget films like this usually not get making of documentaries anyway. Like I said, I think a lot of the films that they would have been documenting never finished, so we don't know about them anyway. So I think this is quite a valuable little window into a certain type of filmmaking that you don't often get to see, and it's also got the kind of time capsule kind of thing to it as well, right? I did have to laugh. There was one very brief insert of, I think it's they're driving somewhere between locations, and the car with Cranus and Dimot and his lot are all singing "The Demon Lover Sucks, the Demon Lover Sucks," you know. So, like, yeah, so I found this worthwhile as a double bill. I found the whole thing. How did you get on with Demon Lover Diary? Did it somewhat sugar the pill of the Demon Lover film?
no, not at all. No,
Oh, really?
no, yeah, it was worse. I was
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah, it was, yeah, it made it worse. Yeah, yeah, I want knee slapper. No, I wanted,
You did
I
a
was like,
very
because I was like,
important
okay, so
reference.
this is gonna be interesting because I'm kind of interested in seeing a documentary about how this shit was made and what kind of what went on
Yeah,
behind the
yeah,
scenes and that. But it was not even about the fucking movie. It was just about some whiny bitches and like a eighth grade crush. And then the end. It was it. I was like, "Where's the?" They're not even talking about the movie like most of the time, right? It was just I just found it just a waste of time. It was like I didn't think it was. I wanted to see them, talking about the movie or making the props or like I wanted to see how the movie got made, but it
yeah,
wasn't about that. It was just about these sort of like whiny, annoying people in the backstage, and then that was it. It was like it wasn't even. Yeah, it was just. It could have been about anybody, not about. So it wasn't really about the movie. It was just about these people and what they were doing, hanging out. So I didn't find it was it seemed almost pointless to me. Like it made me angry to watch this because I was like, what? I was yelling at. So it was like, talk about the fucking movie. Where's the fucking movie? Right. So yeah, and it was just, and then at the end they left the end, and I was like, okay, that's it. Oh, so I was very
interesting.
annoyed by
This
it.
is what makes you angry, and what makes me angry is quite different. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, I don't get it, but
But
yeah, I don't. I was like, yeah, I watched this, Demon Lover. I thought was just boring and just a mess. And then I was like, okay, well, at least they're gonna put some context into it. But wasn't. There was no context. It was just more boring shit.
yeah,
That
I
was
mean,
even more boring because it wasn't even a story or anything. It was
it's
just like,
interesting actually. You do bring up
yeah,
an interesting point because either they were either just nothing was going on and they were just documenting what they could,
Yeah,
and the filmmakers kind of got their shit together later, maybe, and
maybe.
that's when they were doing all the
But
stuff.
that's the other thing. I do have some questions though. Like, if Crinus was the cinematographer, and
Mm.
he obviously left probably quite early on, or at least I don't think they got that much in. So how come there's not another cinematographer credited? Or, so who did the cinematography then?
I suspect it might have been Donald Jackson
Just
because
doing it himself,
he's
right?
this close to doing it himself anyway, isn't
Yeah,
he?
but why did he even bother crediting Crinus then? Yeah.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, like if it seemed a bit of a contentious relationship, and it seemed like he probably just fucked off early on, or at least nowhere more than halfway through the process, whatever, right? So,
It
so
might
I'm
be
I'm,
one of
I'm
those
curious
things.
why he even got a credit in the first
It
place.
might be
So
one of those things where they add credits to films, right? So they don't look so amateurish, right? Like the same reason that Jerry Unkins has an extra pseudonym as an actor rather than.
right,
So, sometimes they do that. Plus, as well, I mean, I don't know what was going on in 75, 76, but unless Donald J. Jackson totally delusional, which is entirely possible, this Crinus guy, whatever he saw at the film festival or whatever, seems like it was something. So maybe he just thought he would get name recognition. Like he thought, oh, this
oh,
Crinus guy is going to go on to big things, so we'll
right.
stick his name on there. And if he tries to complain, come around here, we'll turn Ted Nugent's guns on him again. Yeah, I don't know, but it's a good question. Yeah, but yes, that's the thing. Were they just not capturing what? Because, like you said, obviously, even though you didn't like the Demon Lover, you clearly at least acknowledged that there were scenes like when they filmed like the demon or something. So they would have had to build props and blah. So maybe all that stuff was just done later.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's only like a couple parts where it implies or gives the idea that they had just shot the scene. Like the example I gave was when the whipped cream. So like,
Yes.
they don't show the whipped cream scene, but they show the cameras have turned off and now he's really fucking pissed because there's, whipped cream all over his camera and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right? That was sort of like, okay, now I'm seeing the two sides, the backstage or not backstage, but the sort of the front of the camera and behind the camera, there I can see where they're overlapping and the mixed together, right? But that was it. That was the only time I ever saw anything
Right.
like that. There was a couple
Right.
like where they're, these going on about how it's a masterpiece, and then they're talking about scheduling or something at some point, which is, whatever. And then nothing, rest of it was even about the movie at all. It was just about these people hooking up and just
Yeah.
talking to a trucker. And I was like, why am I listening to a trucker talk? I mean, like, what is this shit? Like, I don't know. I didn't get it.
I
So
don't mind the extraneous stuff, but
I don't mind the strange stuff as long as there's a good dollop of important stuff. But I didn't find there was almost any
right.
important stuff at all.
I
It was all extraneous.
guessing by the time how long they were there and everything, I think what they probably filmed was probably just that opening coven scene where there's a
Uh,
party, and then if there were a few things shot that they might have filmed some other stuff. But yeah, I think we're just seeing the very beginning of production.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
yeah. So that's I was saying like well like I it's sort of the purpose of this documentary was lost on me. It's like how can you make a documentary when you're only there for like a couple days and rather than the whole process, which was apparently 14 days according to the schedule at the beginning, right? So, but yeah, and the whole thing they're talking about how they're gonna be super efficient and film it in 2 weeks, but it seems like they're only there for a couple days anyway, and they're just sitting around doing nothing most of the time,
yeah,
right? So I mean that there is certain elements that was in that oh I see like it's a bit of a chaos. They're not really getting their shit together. People are annoyed at each other. There's like clash of personalities that started to get a little interesting, but then that was it. And then they just kind of fucked off in the end. And it was like, I didn't quite get it in general. So I wanted more actual backstory of what was going on.
so we
Yeah.
leave Ron raging, but don't worry, viewers, next time we'll we'll,
Michigan.
we'll calm him down because we're going to give him some of his beloved Sam Raimi. So
Yeah.
there we go. Yeah, isn't it? Look at his little face.